Welcome back everyone to the Farm Girl Hoop 8 Prim Stitch Along. We are having so much fun stitching here together the Lori Holt quilt in machine embroidery for Riley Blake Designs. So this week we are stitching the Farm Girl block, complete with all of her applique and thread details that we are going to work through together in this block. If you're joining us for the first time, we'd love to invite you to watch this video as well as the whole series of videos for the Prim Stitch Along. We even have a ready set video where we talk about how to cut and prep all the fabrics, threads, and get yourself ready for success for your Prim Stitch Along. If you're joining us back again, welcome and let's get started. So today we're stitching out the Farm Girl Hoop 8. There are 3 sizes, as always, that you can stitch from, and there's a 6x10, 8x12, and 9x14. Just so you know, I am stitching the 6x10, but all you need to make sure is that you have a stitchable area, so this area inside of your hoop can accommodate that size that you're working on. So I can accommodate a 6x10, which is what I am working on here. We're going to follow through the steps and go step by step. But before we begin, I just want to run through some of the supplies that you might need specifically for this block. So for this block, you're going to need 2 fabrics that I have already cut out and they're ready set. And I have them with the label that's called Farm Girl. You can grab these labels over on your USB under a separate PDF called Block Labels. Then I have all of my threads in order that I'm going to need. I love to just do a little inventory before I begin. So what I do is I just follow along and I find my first thread and I just start placing my threads, thread number 8, 7, 3, 19, and go through all of them throughout the whole pattern to make sure that I have everything that I need. So I have my fabrics, I have my threads, then I want to make sure that I have my tools that I need. The cute cut ruler that I'm going to need. You can find that size on the back of your block page. We always have the little chart there so you know how to trim your block and what size to trim your block to, and a few other notions and tools. Of course, we'll need an iron, and I have a Jill Lily pressing pad, and of course you'll need your USB along with, make sure you have your right file and size on your machine. So I'm stitching the Farm Girl Hoop 8, yes I have it there, and the 6x10 size, correct. All right, once we have all of that, we're going to start with this very first part, which is not quite machine step 1. And here we're going to need to make sure you have your stabilizer here, so your heavyweight stabilizer, enough for 1 hoop, as well as your fused background fabric. I'm going to move my fabric out of the way for a minute, as well as my ruler, just so we have lots of open space to work on here, and we're going to follow along with this pattern. You're going to notice that there's no step number here because these step numbers correlate to the step numbers on your machine. This, if it doesn't have a step number, is an action step that we take together. So the first thing we do is we're going to hoop our stabilizer and our fused fabric. So we're going to do it in that order. You're going to take your hoop. I highly suggest you do it laying on a flat surface. So I have it on my cutting table here. I'm going to put my heavyweight stabilizer on first, doing my very best to center it. So you're going to try not to get it crooked. And although there is enough overage if you accidentally slid and got it crooked, we're going to try and make it as straight as possible. And then you're going to take your background fabric that's been pressed and fused and lay it on top as well. If any shifting has happened, you can just adjust as you go. Then you're going to take your top hoop or your inner hoop and place it inside. Now you're just going to gently press it in. I don't want you to pull while you're pressing because that can distort the fabric. You're just going to take your hoop and starting on one side, just gently press it in. And that should give you like a nice taut center without pulling on your fabric here. I'm going to make sure it's well seated in all the way around and all the edges, and then I'm going to lock it in place. Excellent. Now we're ready to go. We're going to follow along here and do our first step. You're going to notice on the first few steps, especially when we're doing applique, we do not have a call out for a thread color. And this is because all of these stitches are going to be either hidden underneath the applique or underneath the cover stitches. It is up to you if you prefer to change that top stitch to match the fabric that's there. I am going to start with the first thread color, which is 8, and I already have it threaded in my machine. But you can go ahead and for the first few steps, change your thread as desired. All right, so step 1 is a placement stitch, and this is just going to show us where we're going to place our fabric. So all you need to do is place your now prepared hoop into the machine and press go on step 1. So here we have it, placement step for step 1. This is the sheep's body. Now we're going to move on to machine step 2, which is a tack down stitch. The fabric we're going to place is M.E. So this fabric right here, and we're going to place it right side up. So I'm just going to take that fabric and I'm going to lay it right side up. Whenever you have a patterned fabric, you have a couple opportunities here when you're doing machine embroidery and applique in this method. So you have an opportunity to pick some of your favorite shapes. If there's kind of a direction happening there, you also have an opportunity to decide if you want to have your sheep in line with it or if you want to have it kind of offset. So just be mindful here when you're placing your fabric, not only that it's covering, because we do want a 1/2 inch on all the sides of the sheep. It was a little bit short on that side. There we go. So you have ability to trim, but just be mindful also of the orientation of your fabric and what's going to be fussy cut in quotations when you place it down. All right, you can tape that into place with washi tape if you would like, or you can just press it down really good and just slow your machine down while you do your tack down stitch. You will notice in that step 2 tack down stitch that we have 2 lines just slightly offset of each other going around. At Riley Blake Designs in our machine embroidery patterns, this is something that we take great pride in and love to do for our applique. This ensures that if you're cutting really close, which we are going to show you and encourage you to do, that if you accidentally cut that one row of stitches, you have that second inner row that's just slightly in there that will protect your design and still hold it in place without it getting cut or fraying to come out for your cover stitch. The cover stitch for these designs too is also big enough to cover both of those lines. They're really close together and usually has a wonderful mimicked design from the fabric as well, so it has the ability to completely cover it. When we go to trim this, there's a couple of things I'd love for you to do. Take it out of your machine, trying to trim inside your machine around everything, and on this area, can cause you to make a couple errors, not as close as you need to be. So set yourself up for the best success by putting it on a hard, flat surface. Second thing is, please do use this fabric that's on the outside. That is there for a reason. It is there so that you can hold it and give it a little pull or just pull it nice and taut so that you can trim as you go. Anything that's curved, feel free to move your hand along, pulling as you go. And make sure you take your curved applique scissors and using the bottom apex, just tilt them in, not with a point coming in, but just tilt them in there so you can get that point as close to your stitches as possible. Trying to go into the most comfortable position for your wrist while you're trimming and not in any kind of awkward position. We're going to rotate the hoop to do those things. Okay, let's begin. So I'm going to start over here. I'm going to cut right off and go into the design. And as this is a longer design, I'm going to go a little way, release, and come over here and continue to pull just slightly. And I'm going to just come right off. Using little short snips is going to give you the best results and really get you as tight as you can, especially to a curved design. Doing an extra little bit of work while we're trimming here is going to set you up for the most success when you go to do your applique. So I'm just going to take a moment here and make sure that there's no little loose threads that are coming. And you can always do that again right before your applique stitch, but I'm just going to do it here just to start. Excellent. Okay, it's already getting cute. We can see the design coming. That was our trim step. Next up is another placement stitch, and again, this is no thread color call out. This is going to be where the farm girl's skirt goes, and we're going to go ahead and stitch that right away so we know where to put that next fabric. Okay, I have a little thread that's here. I'm just going to trim it to start. It didn't get sucked all the way down to the bottom. Good. It's easier to trim it now than after the applique comes on it. So next up is step number 4. This is where we're going to take our fabric JJ right here that I already have pre-cut, and we're going to place it right side up on top of this. We're going to center it. Now, something to be really aware of is kind of what we were talking about here, especially on a fabric like this that is very directional and is a plaid. So if you offset it at all, you're going to have a very different look than if it's straight. If it bothers you that you want the plaid to be totally straight or even down or one line down, please do just check that this is your opportunity. We have given you enough here so that you could play with the design. I am going to make sure I have 2 dark lines coming down, just like the image shows, and I want to just line it up so it's straight. So I'm folding something over here. This is the top of mine, and I'm just going to take an extra moment to make sure that this is going to be fussy cut exactly how I want it to be. And I have enough room everywhere else. Excellent. If you want to tape it in place, you absolutely can with some washi tape, and we're going to go ahead and stitch out step number 4. Okay, before you go ahead and trim this, just check, is it fussy cut the way you want? If it wasn't, you would have the option to carefully seam rip it out. It is just a single stitch, and you could go back a step and reposition it if you want. Or you could just be happy how it is because it's going to be beautiful no matter what. I'm pleased with how mine turned out here, and I'm going to go ahead and do the same techniques for trimming that we just did on the sheet block. So I want to come and pull, and again, do nice and tiny snips all the way along, rotating as we go. Doing the applique at the beginning, I feel is so organized, but I also feel like it really gives you a strong sense of the base of the design, and it really pulls it together with dimension, which is so, so exciting. And now we get to play and really let the thread become the star of the show, as it does a lot of the design work for us and a lot of the embellishment. And we can work through all the tips and techniques for using different colors. You can even reduce your speed on your machine if you're finding anything's happening to your machine, like the tension is getting a little off on the corners of any designs. You can try reducing your speed. But really you can just sort of sit back and enjoy this process as we continue to build on this design. So next is a detail stitch. This is going to be a fun one to happen here. And this is using the thread that I already have in here. It is thread number 8 for, I'm just checking, step number 5 on my machine. These are the stems of the flowers in the farm girl's hands. And you're going to notice that there's actually like a spot that's left for her hand there. So don't worry, that will get filled in as we work through this pattern together. So stitch 5 was completely continuous and it had that running stitch underneath where the hand will go. So there's no need to take it out of the machine here, the hoop out of the machine and trim anything. We're going to move right on to step 6, which is a cover stitch and a fill stitch. That's like pulling in all of those beautiful leaf designs. And we are going to just change the thread color to number 7 to give those dimension. So go ahead and change your thread to thread number 7, and let's watch step number 6. Look how it's coming together. So exciting. Aren't those just showing so much detail and dimension with the different greens and the different textures of sewing? Now, if you have your jump stitch trimmer on, that's great. You don't need to pull it out of your hoop. But I just like to show if you don't have a trim on your jump stitch, what you would do. And this is the spot where you'd pull it out and just trim all of those jump stitches between the leaves. And there's just a few of them here to do. And then I always just like to remind you to do that on the back as well. So this is a great time, even if you have your trimmer on for your jump stitches or your machine is capable of doing that. Just make sure that you do keep the back of your embroidery nice and tidy here, and that'll just sort of help with the design. All right, so exciting. It's really coming together. The next step that we have here is our sawtooth star that you will see kind of pop in every single block in Prim that we've done so far. So it's really fun to see that cohesiveness come. We are using thread number 3 for this. So we're going to change to thread number 3 and just stitch out this fill stitch, which is all the points on the sawtooth star. The next step is step number 8. We are doing a fill stitch with thread number 19. This is for the farm girl's hands and face. And so feel welcome to play around and switch these thread colors out with the farm girl that most represents the girl that you would like to have in your quilt. So have a lot of fun and be creative. Reminder, if you need to trim your jump stitches, this was when you would do it. And after step 8, we're moving on to step 9, which is another fill stitch. We are going to be using thread number 12, and we are doing the sheep's face and feet. So again, feel welcome to play and have fun and make that sheep as whimsical and personal as you would like to do. So you don't need to pull this out just yet, but I would like to show you for two reasons that I'm going to pull this hoop off of the embroidery arm here. So number one, if you have that jump stitch to trim, that you do that. There's one at the ear too, and we'll do that on the front and the back in both spots. And then the next thing is just looking at ahead to what the next step will be. The next step is actually a cover stitch and a fill stitch for the farm girl's skirt and then her body and her arm. She's really going to come together. But just take this opportunity to check your trimming. If any little threads have come kind of loose, or you've noticed that you just want to get a little cleaner or tighter, now is the time before you begin that cover stitch. So just to tidy that up a little bit. And then we're going to go ahead and switch this thread color on step number 10 to, I love it when it works out like this, thread number 10. So 10 and 10, step 10, let's switch this thread out. Wow, is that ever a stunning stitch out? Don't you agree how the same thread can do different directions to make, you really can see the arm inside of there and the whole body and the great detail around that cover stitch. That was such an enjoyable stitch. Next up is step 11. We are using thread number 5, and this is going to be the farm girl's hair. Now again, feel welcome to personalize this stitch however you want and change this thread to whatever hair color you desire. This one is thread number 5 on step number 11. Before I press go on this, I do want to just warn you that we are doing the flowers first. So just be aware of that. Depending on the color of hair that you have changed your thread to, it is also going to be the color that you are making on your flowers. All right, let's begin. I kind of want an excuse to pull it out, don't you? Oh my goodness. All right. Well, my excuse is that I'm going to trim these jump stitches, but if you don't have them, you are still welcome to pull it out and admire all of the great details that we have been working on together. The texture in the petals is just adorable, and it's really nice and light. So it still gives the quilt body and movement here without being heavy, but giving you the whole image. I am also always going to trim the back as well, since I have it out here. Wonderful. All right, next up, and the last one on this page 32 is a color that we haven't used before yet, and this is 13. It is an orange color, and we are going to do the centers of these flowers with this color. So I can't wait to see how this is coming together. Each color that we add really brightens it up and gives a whole new element of texture and life. All right, I'm taking it out to enjoy that, the design that's stitched out, but also to trim these on the front and back. And I'm going to take the opportunity to give the sheep another just look around before he gets his cover stitch, because we've gone through quite a few thread changes already. And I just want to make sure that there's no little loose threads that have come up that are going to pop through on his cover stitch there. So I am just trimming around just to make sure everything is off. We get to flip the page and move over to page 33 now. And here we are stitching the center of the star. We are doing that in thread number 18. And we get to see how it mimics these fabrics here throughout as it stitches in just thread. Wow, I just hate to choose, but that might be my favorite stitch out yet. What do you think about that design inside the sawtooth star? I just think it is absolutely stunning. Next up, we're really going to see this design come together for step 14. So we're actually going back to a color that we used previously. So back to thread number 3. This is both the straw hat and the cover stitch around the sheep. So if you didn't trim around the sheep previously and kind of tidy up, you might want to take this opportunity to do it right now. Otherwise, you can switch your thread to thread number 3. Make sure your machine is on step 14, and let's begin this stitch out. We're on the last few stitches, so that just stitched out so beautifully. Next up, we have step 15, which is another fill stitch. This gets to be a cute sawtooth star, but guess where it appears? Right in the center of the sheep. How adorable. We're going to do a fill stitch with thread number 1. Let's bring the farm girl to life, and we're going to add little rosy cheeks to her and also fill in the center of the sheep with number 17 thread on step number 16. Wonderful. Good job, everybody. Before we do the very last step, I think it's time for just a little swooning and celebration, don't you? Oh my goodness. This is a really sweet, whimsical. It reminds me of that real prairie feel. Maybe the breeze is even blowing through the farmyard. So good. Let's take a moment before we do this last step, which is our crosshair step, and just flip your design over, especially if this is your first time, and take a moment to trim everything. You're going to have a harder time trimming it once you have the crosshairs in there, and we want to get rid of too many extra threads before we tear the stabilizer away. So this is a great opportunity while we're enjoying our design to just clean up the back if necessary. Okay, if you would like to change your thread here so it's more visible, you're welcome to change both the top and the bottom thread. I'm going to leave mine, but you're welcome to change yours here to something dark so you can really see it in contrast. We're going to stitch out step 17, and you're going to be so grateful you did. It's a great big basting stitch, comes out super easy, but it's going to help you square up exactly where you need this to be. And just like that, we finished stitching the Farm Girl Block 8 on the Prim stitch along. Great job. Let's take a few moments and do all of the finishing things that we need to do now so that later we will have ourselves set up for success. If everything has been stitched out and you don't need to do anything, you can remove it from your hoop. Just take a minute to relax the fabrics and move everything else out of place. Next, we're going to carefully tear away that stabilizer. Especially when you have some decorative stitches like this around the corners, it's just nice to take it slow. So I just like to do it just like I do when I'm cutting. There is lots of petals and decorative stitches, so just take your finger along them and slowly work. Don't worry about getting too close on the inside down through the stems. Just try and get as much on the outside as you can and make it to the star. And then because lots of ends up happening in your hand here, I just like to tear it away, and that's the first section. Then I'm going to rotate this a quarter turn and come down along this side and do the same thing. You're going to find it slightly easier to tear away on kind of the heavier satin stitches, especially like along this, a cover stitch along the skirt. That one came out pretty easily. Using your favorite tool, you can go in and remove any of the stabilizer that's inside. We have quilty hemostats. I'm going to use this little point turner, the little bluebird point turner, to kind of get in here and just lift up underneath the skirt and pull that away. Same thing under the sheep. Good. And I'm just going to keep it flat on the surface. Now, it's really nice to tear your stabilizer on something like a table or your cutting mat, because it gives you something to push against, number one, when you are pulling things away, but it also gives some stability still to the stitches so that you're not just pulling them against the fabric itself. And once you're happy with that amount, then you are ready for next steps. I'm going to move my pattern over here a little bit. Next step is step 3. And I'm going to move my pressing mat over. Using my Jill Lily pressing mat so it has lots of plush to protect my stitches from the hot iron and from pressing. I'm going to take this design and put it face down. So it's going to absorb into the Jill Lily pressing mat, and I'm going to use no steam, just a warm iron, and hold and lift. We're going to just work around the design like this and try not to drag or pull or stretch your design in any way. Great. And when you're satisfied that everything is pressed out, you can remove your design. I'm going to put my mat away off to the side again. And we're ready for my favorite part. So this is just the magic part. I just love it so much. We stitched out that crosshair, and we also have this crosshair on our Cute Cuts ruler. I do want to call out, just reminding to always check, even if you are 90% sure you know what size this block is. It's a great idea to just get into a good habit to check here, just in case the instructions surprise you. And there's a different block used in a different spot. So for the farm girl block, it always reminds you which block it is you are going to use depending on the stitchable area size, either a 6.5 square, 8.5, or 10.5 square Cute Cuts Trim It ruler. The reason why I love the Quilt Cuts Trim It ruler so much is because it has that crosshair that matches what we just stitched, so we can center it exactly, and it shows you where your 1/4 inch seam allowance is. Once I line up the design, both vertically and horizontally, I'm just going to take another second and run my finger along the seam allowance just to ensure that nothing there will be in the way, so the design isn't bent around or there's nothing being caught. I have enough space and room all the way around. Once I ensure that it is, I'm going to just trim 2 of the 4 sizes, and I'm going to spin it around. Once I have it spun around, I'm going to do the same thing here again and line up the crosshairs, and it should line up perfectly here and here. And we are going to cut that. Time for the big reveal. Isn't it adorable and cute? All right, very last step that we're going to do is we are going to seam rip the back bobbin thread of our crosshair. So just catching some, you don't have to catch every single one, but catching even every other one if you can of your crosshair block. of your crosshair stitch rather, and going both horizontal and vertically. Once you're able to pull most of it out from the back, you're going to see how easy it pulls from the front. Once I grab it here, it literally just pulls, wow, right out, almost the whole thing. There's just a couple spots where I just need to gently help it. Don't force it at all, just gently remove those stitches. And if you need to pull it from the back again, you can. You might be able to get a little bit more stabilizer out here. Just had one piece that I couldn't get out. There, now it just came out nice and gentle. And here is your farm girl block. Let's get her set up for display. So here she is. Wow, such a beautiful stitch out. So many fun details in the arm, the texture in the straw hat. This is one of the center parts, is one of my favorites. Her hair, the cute little sheep in his ear, all of the leaves and the center of those flowers. What a fun design. I hope you enjoyed stitching it. A few things to remember before we close off today is take your block label. Make sure that you put it to the back of your block, just so we have a good understanding of what every block is. And we're going to do a little celebration like we always do. And we're going to take a look at all of the blocks that we've stitched so far. Coming all the way around. Move my hoop out of the way. If you're just joining us, you can catch the videos for any of these blocks over at our YouTube channel. We have blog posts of special tips and tricks to think about each of the blocks that you see here, as well as a private Facebook group where we are sharing all of this fun of the Prim Stitch Along. We are so grateful that you are here, and we can't wait to see what you are creating with the Prim Stitch Along. My name is Jennifer Long. I manage the pattern department and the machine embroidery department at Riley Blake Designs, and we are so grateful to have you here with us.